Hello?
Twitch. So what are we going to do on a day off?
Helen left me a list of things to get done, so...
Well, I hope number one on that list was podcasting.
Welcome to another episode of Spawnography. I'm one of your hosts, Pierce Lyden. Pronouns they, them. Here with, as always,
George Marston, pronouns they, them, or she, her, and yeah. Well, Pierce, before we get into some of the Spawn issues ever, not even Spawn issues, some of the Spawn spin-off issues ever, which I think is giving away our position on these right at the top.
Certainly
How the
is.
hell are you doing? How's your...
I'm doing well. I did have to rush to edit the podcast this morning because yesterday I corrupted the file or something. I fucked it up when I saved it, so it didn't come out on time, but that's okay. Nobody noticed, allegedly.
Well, hey, look at you.
But aside from that, I don't know. I mean, as this comes out, it's January. It's a new year. As we're recording, though, it feels like this year will never end.
Yeah, we're racing towards the resolution of one of the dumbest years of our lives.
Truly.
I'm off work right now, which is great. I don't work
Nice.
again until January, very European. I had a pretty cool first day of vacation. I went with my mom, who I love, to look at some vintage toys that this lady had for sale on Facebook, some Masters of the Universe and other adjacent stuff. And I looked at the bin and I kind of hemmed and hawed, and then I noticed there were, because she wanted, a price for it, and I was looking at it, seeing some broken shit, trying to figure out, do we get our money back on this? Is there anything worth collecting?
Mm.
And
it was like OG.
yeah, like 80s
Yeah.
stuff, all like same stuff I had in my childhood, but some relatively rare stuff. A couple of Black Star figures, which are kind of like the predecessor to He-Man in a way. So that was cool. And then I saw what was in there I saw a stack of like a big thick stack of Masters of the Universe mini comics.
Oh, cool.
Which
didn't you buy like an omnibus of those?
I do have an omnibus of the mini comics. I do.
Nice.
But the mini comics are cool, and also they help complete figures. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you've got, even if you have all the weapons, having the mini comic is cool. And so I was like, I think even if I keep a chunk of those, whatever, keep some of this, I can at least make my money back selling some of the doubles.
Yeah.
So my mom and I sprang for it. I got home.
Did it cost you a lot?
A couple $100, $200
for like a whole big box.
For a big bin. Yeah.
Nice.
So pretty good. Not bad. I think if at a cursory glance, a lot of collectors would have maybe thought like, I don't know, maybe anyone who was definitely trying to flip all this stuff would have been like, I don't know. Yeah. But we took a chance on it because it was kind of cool, and also like I said, some cool stuff I didn't have. First thing we did when we got home was I put the bin on my mom's kitchen table, and I just started pulling out the figures one by one. And then at the very bottom of the bin, basically the last intact figure that I pulled out, because there's a bunch of broken ones, was the rarest Masters of the Universe figure in North America that was ever released in the US. The only rarer ones, or that are comparably rare, are Laserlight, He-Man, and Skeletor, who were released only in Europe. Anyway, it is the so-called Wonder Bread He-Man, or Savage He-Man.
Now, I know a little bit about this toy, weirdly. Maybe because of you.
Maybe.
That feels right. Maybe because of
Well, it's
land.
an
I don't know.
interesting story.
But
Um,
wasn't it like that they were going to do Conan figures that were the same scale as the He-Man figures, and then when that was not a kids movie, Mattel was like, uh
well,
now what do we do?
sort of. That is sort of the origin of Masters of the Universe. But what this comes from, the Wonder Bread He Man is called that because, first off, for a long time, no one was sure if it was an official figure or a bootleg because it has brown hair instead of blonde, and
Mm,
then like black boots, dark brown like fur, and like a black belt, which it's the only He Man that looks like that. It's off model, basically.
yeah.
And for a long time, people like there were examples of it, but people thought it was just some random like a bootleg or something. Then it was pieced together through let's say a fan investigation or fan theory,
Through a list serve, maybe.
possibly, that it was, well, this would have been in the early 2000s at this, or mid
Okay.
2000s even, that this was really getting prominence. um a lot of people, there came to be a belief that it was the product of a Wonder Bread promotion, where supposedly Wonder Bread, the bread of course, did a promotion where you could mail in receipts or points or whatever and get a special mail away Masters Universe figure. And this was what it was believed to be for years, to the point where the figure was later, an updated version was released as like an official figure named Wondar, uh,
Hmm.
after Wonder Bread,
That's fun.
by Mattel. Now the thing is, a little while back, a couple years ago, and I feel comfortable sharing this here, especially even though it's a fairly long story, because like I know we got a lot of toy fan listeners like I am. Uh, it was actually later found to be a special, there was a buy three get one free offer through certain department stores by Mattel, and this was the get one free figure. It was basically just an alt colored He-Man with no armor or weapons. There are some armor and accessories that are kind of like associated with him because of other things. I did find he sometimes has black armor. I
Mm.
found that, although that was apparently never, doesn't matter. Um, I also found a Scare Glow, which is the most rare North American wide release figure, and that was pretty fucking cool. So honestly, it was, if you're a collector, it was kind of the like find you dream of, literally the holy grail of like vintage Masters of the Universe figures, outside of, again, shit that was only released in Europe. I never thought I'd see one outside of like the one or two I've seen in glass cases at conventions or like in person, let alone hold one. And now I have one, and it's like, wow. I mean, this,
do
it's crazy.
did either of the figures have like all their accessories and stuff?
Well, the funny thing, the Scare Glow had almost everything, almost complete, which is very cool.
Wow.
The though the Savage He-Man, as he's come to be called, excuse me, or Wonder Bread He-Man, supposedly never came with accessories. There are accessories that some people display him with or associate with him that are from an alternate, like, sort of weapon pack, that are all like these red re-releases of
Mm.
weapons that came from other figures. And there's a black like armor plate that like is often he's displayed with. And so like the official re-releases that are like the homage to this like rare figure have those same things.
Jesus,
So
I'm looking up this figure on like eBay. Holy shit.
the one I have is a little damaged,
Sure,
but
but
it's
even
it's
still, they go
complete and
for
intact.
somewhere between like $1,000 and $4,000.
Yep.
And the scare glow
Yeah, it goes for like
goes for like,
250 to
yeah,
500
just that's
depending.
crazy.
So
Congratulations. That's so
you might want to
amazing.
you might want to mute that. you know, I don't know if we want the like those prices in there, but like maybe we'll delete that part. But yes, they are extremely rare. Funny thing is, I have a Scare Glow from when I was a kid, so I might wind up trading or selling that piece because you
Because you
know.
have a slightly nicer one.
Mm-hmm.
I had my old comic book store that I used to go to. Shout out Royal Collectibles, great store. They Mike, who owns the store now, a huge Spider-Man fan, has every
Oh,
issue.
amazing.
The Amazing Fantasy and the Spider-Man #1 on display were usually his copy if he
Right.
hadn't found one for the store.
Right.
Um, but he would frequently, like, if he found a better copy at a show, the better
Right.
copy goes in the store and he just keep the lesser copy.
Right.
But anyway,
Wow.
very cool. Congratulations. That is
Thank
like the
you.
dream thing that I think of every time I see like a sign for a garage sale is like,
Right.
oh fuck, like maybe I'll get to find like X-Men #1, you know?
Just
Uh
some random, you never know. Like they're okay. The most expensive comic ever sold at auction was an Action Comics #1, graded like 9.2 or something, that sold earlier this
crazy.
year for
Oh
like
yeah. The
1.8 million or something.
those guys, their mom said that she used to like collect comics, and then when she died, they were in their 50s, her kids,
Yeah.
and like they finally found them like perfectly preserved in the attic.
Yeah, and I read that it was
Wild.
like the conditions just happened to be perfect to preserve instead of damage
So
the.
crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. You just never know. It's for a collector who collects the toys I like, that's like hitting the lottery. I mean, one of the rarest toys of the 80s. Um, I think maybe the only modern He-Man figure that would be rarer than that is a like Ghost of Grayskull figure that was King Grayskull or whatever, that was released as a like very special like limited variant at Comic-Con years ago. There's only like a dozen of those or something. But aside from that, like I don't know how many Wonder Bread He-Mans there are. I mean, there's a few, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
pretty
cool
awesome.
thing. And especially just a cool piece of toy history, especially knowing the interesting story behind like how we even know where it came from. The thing that impresses me is that the box that we got, even some of the broken stuff, they had a lot of rare figures in there that like, especially in the southeast, would have been hard to get, and it's kind of interesting.
Mm.
I almost like, the lady was not very talkative. She just kind of like named her price, and we were like, okay. But I wanted to ask, like, where did you?
Why do you have these?
Well, she had them because of her son or
Oh
whatever. They were
yeah.
like her kid's collection, but like some of them, it's like, wow, this would have been rare at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, but
So
you know how it is. Like, think about. I mean, I feel like your mom's different, right? Because she engaged with
my
your
mom's
interest.
built different.
Yeah, because she's
I was
engaged.
there with my mom, and we had a great
Yeah,
time. It was
but
very,
like,
very
but like,
cool.
she's engaged with your interests in a way that like, I've explained things to my parents about like things that I collect or whatever, and I'll be like, oh yeah, this is like kind of a big deal, and they're like, uh
Yeah,
huh, okay, great, honey, you know, and they just it kind of it just like glosses over them that like what I'm saying is true. So
yeah. My
anyway,
mom, well, we were going through it. She was like, "Oh, I remember this guy. I remember this guy. This guy was my favorite."
your
I was like,
mom's the
"Hell yeah,
best.
I love my mom," and it was very special to have that as a modern Christmas time memory. You know, if you want to listen to me talk at length about my mom and I and Christmas and what it was like, the magic of Christmas, you can go back and listen to our episode on the original Spawn Christmas special. Which issue was that? That was number
39.
39. That's right. I almost said 35. And then also, you can listen to the crossover episode we did with Regarding Spawn about the same issue last year. And yeah, so if you want a little Christmas cheer, those are some of my favorite episodes we've ever done.
Yeah.
I just really enjoy. I always enjoy the times we've gotten to crossover with Regarding Spawn, the Spawnverts and the Spawn Community coming together as one.
Totally. Speaking of Spawn, we're at an interesting point in the narrative.
We
We
are.
we just covered Spawn 142 to 144, Devil to Pay, and and we just kind of wrapped up this Nyx arc a little bit, and Spawn is leaving New York City, and we don't, or Al is, and we don't really know what's next for him. But
Right. He's hitting the road like Bruce Banner.
yeah, he's in his Bill Bixby era,
Exactly. Boop, boo,
and
boop, boo.
before we get back to regular Spawn, there's another story happening with some characters that have kind of been popping in intermittently in and out of the narrative at this point.
This is a
Sam and Twitch.
really kind of interesting timing for this particular Salmon Twitch story. Now, right off the bat, so I don't forget before we even get into this, first off, I want to say this, I think, will become these issues, while separate from the main Spawn title, will probably become important to the story. The reason we're covering them. That said, I need to offer a vehement trigger warning for all kinds of stuff: sexual violence, violence against women, violence against children, uh, prison violence, assault, so much. So if you are not in the space to hear like a weird kind of onslaught of just horrible shit, and we won't dwell on the details, but if you're not into that, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll when we do discuss it as we go through it, we'll try to remember to kind of offer a secondary trigger warning. But
Yeah, just a
yeah, some
big
of
blanket one at the start.
this is definitely similar to Hellspawn, similar to the regular Sam and Twitch title, a more adult kind of. You okay?
I just realized I have a koozie on my drink because one, it keeps them cold, and also because then I always know I live with two other people, so then I always know
Which
which
one's
fizzy
yours?
water is mine because I just drink fizzy water. I just realized this is my girlfriend's koozie. I just realized it says "Got nuts," which I knew it said that, and it has a squirrel. What I didn't notice was it says donatesperm.com.
I guess that is something you can do if you do have nuts. So
Yeah, you know, uh, you'll
glad
probably
we already
delete
did the trigger
this.
warning.
You'll probably delete this, but I think that if I could magically transform, like take one proper like scientific term for something and replace it with a slang term, I would definitely switch sperm for cum. Donate cum.
You know what? I'm kind of with you on
My
that.
cum
It's
cells.
much funnier.
It is so funny. Anyway, that's you know, here's my little one sentence political diversions. I think that it's funny how many people are like, "Oh, woke, they have no humor," and their thought on it comes down to like, "Oh, the woke people don't like dick jokes," and it's like, no, all we talk about is fucking boners and cum and farts and shit.
As it should be.
Exactly, because that's what's funny.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway,
We could
getting
use
into
more of those on this show.
maybe so, maybe so. There's a long time where there was a remarkable amount of shitting in the story.
Yeah, that is
Not
true.
on the podcast, but in
No,
the
no, no. In
story.
the story, yeah. Since Sam has really turned a corner, and by that I mean not been written by Todd McFarlane.
Gotten
His
some
sort of
fiber in his diet.
his sort of honeymooners vibe,
He's not
honeymooners
really
Fred
farting his way across the
Flintstone.
page anymore.
Yeah, yeah. But
That
that's
said, this is the opposite of that salmon twitch. If you like the sort of Laurel and Hardy, buttoned up twitch and kind of like silly oafish Sam, God, I'm so sorry about what you're about to listen to.
yeah. So we're only going to cover Case File Sam and Twitch for 6 issues. So 2 episodes. I'm gonna do 3 issues an episode, and I want to before we like really dive in, I want to kind of talk a little bit about why this book exists, why it's called Case Files Sam and Twitch, and talk a little bit about the creators
Yeah, yeah,
after we do the credits. So
yeah,
one of the things, and it's in the back matter, so I am slightly skipping ahead, but there is a little letter from Mr. McFarlane that I think gives some good context to this at the top. So it says, Before getting into an introduction to this new comic title, I'd like to first thank you for taking the time to read this issue. Whether you bought the book firsthand or now reading it after six friends have crumpled the pages, I'm always grateful to those who support our endeavors. Now, the reason for this new title. The characters of Sam and Twitch have been with me for a very long time. If you go back to the very first issue of the Spawn comic, you'll see the two detectives make an appearance at the same time as Spawn himself. And although they were not in every issue like our main character with the red cloak, their personalities were always dancing around in my mind. The issues that Greg Capullo and I put them in were some of the funniest times we had in comics. Still, as time went
All
by,
them toilet minutes.
I could see that readers had misread who these two detectives were. From the beginning, they were to be very capable men, able to do their work in an efficient manner and with a skill that put others in their department to shame. That the two of them had some humorous moments of dialogue between them in no way diminished their abilities. In fact, if you go back and look at all the stories I wrote, you'll see it was very consistent and surprising to follow up writers that their humor was nearly exclusive toward one another. Very few times did their remarks spill out toward another individual. Basically, just like true friends, only they were allowed to degrade each other, but how dare anyone else try and take a verbal shot at the other's partner? The second reason for this title is that the first run of comics called Sam and Twitch got so far behind in its schedule as to be ridiculous. And the only person to blame was myself. As the writer, I didn't follow through on my pledge to the book. Currently, issues 24, 25, and 26 are completely finished art wise and need only to be scripted, which by coincidence I will do in the next week, honest. Brian Bendis had helped take the momentum that Greg and I began and delivered an excellent run of stories that encompassed the things that had interested me about Sam and Twitch for the last decade. Real stories revolving around real characters, good old fashioned crime stories. And now, the most recent reason for this book, Marc Andreyko. I met Mark when I stumbled across the work he and Brian were doing on their book called Torso. I was so floored by it
Mm.
that I tried to see if anyone in Hollywood would be interested in telling the story they had written. We have now sold it twice, and with a little luck, someday that film will become a reality for Mark, Brian, and myself. As Mark and I began to speak more and more frequently, it soon became apparent that his passion for the genre far exceeded mine. I had to tap into it someday in the future. Well, as my life and other duties pulled me away from the first title, the obvious thing would be to bring on another writer, and that obvious writer was Mark. A little later, the first artist also came into the picture, and what you now have in your hands is their collaborative effort. Please read a little bio on both men, as I'm sure you will soon be asking to see even more of their work.
Do you know what Torso is about?
I
Have you ever
haven't
read it?
read it. I'm imagining it's about some sort of killer that chops up bodies.
Well, it is based on a true event, which is the Cleveland Torso murders, in which a bunch of torsos were found around Cleveland. Um, there were no real suspects. No one was ever arrested. The case was one of the last cases of Elliot Ness, of the
Hmm.
so-called untouchables, and the fact that it was never solved was a big problem for him emotionally. um this was in the late 30s after he played a hand in catching Capone. His own mythologizing has led him to the point where, like, you have Kevin Costner playing him and like people seeing him as like the figurehead. It's a little bit of a myth, but that's a great comic, and it is about a very interesting story. When I was in high school, I was in drama club, and we had to write a scene, and I wrote a scene of someone being interrogated about the Cleveland Torso murders. There was also a long-standing fringe belief that the murders were committed either by Jack the Ripper, who some say emigrated to America.
Hmm.
Impossible, didn't happen. Or Jack the Ripper isn't one guy. Uh, Murder is not all committed by one person. That's not a conspiracy. That's probably reality. Uh, some people say that the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, was murdered by the same person. Also, probably impossible. You can probably delete most of this. I just special interest triggered. So
Cool.
there you go. There you have it. Well, without further ado, before I ramble one more fucking minute, Pierce hit me with those credits, and then you can hit me with that story.
Great.
Also, I kind of like Todd's letter there. There you
Yeah,
go.
we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane Image Comics present Case Files Sam and Twitch #1. Have You Seen Me? Part 1. Story by Marc and Andreyko. Art by Scott Morse. Color by Jay Photos. Cover by Scott Morse. Lettering by Comic Crafts Jimmy Betancourt. So we are without some stalwart uh, collaborators on the Twitch, or sorry, excuse me, on the Spawn books, but that's okay. Mr. Orzakowski taking a break. So Marc Andreyko, that's kind of the biggest name here. Marc
Yeah.
Andreyko, openly gay writer, has written a bunch of stuff. Got to start with P. Craig Russell on Doctor Strange.
Yeah, he
Was
had
it
a super long run on Manhunter for
created
DC.
created a female Manhunter, Kate Spencer, as well.
The female Manhunter.
But has written a ton of stuff, right? Wolverine, Spider Man, Blade, Ghost Rider,
Yeah.
Wildstorm books, some other
Long-standing
stuff.
writer emeritus in the industry at this point.
Yeah, and and took over for Batwoman after that kind of J.J. Williams, W. Hayden Blackman run. I would say one of the most prominent queer writers in comics
Yeah.
to this day.
Yep.
So,
There you go.
and
Um,
considers Brian Michael Bendis his best friend.
well, that's how sweet for them. I love that. That's great. Comic bros. Good for them. Brian Bendis, pretty nice guy.
Yeah.
He has been chill to me every time I've ever encountered him, even though I once gave him the worst review I've ever given anyone. I've probably mentioned on this list.
I'm trying to think of the worst
Legitimately.
review I ever gave anybody. It was definitely on one of those like Blue World Press, like
Oh
Taylor
God.
Swift comics or Beyonce comics or something.
Oh
I
God.
got there was one week where I told David I was going to cover everything that we got, like everything that wasn't taken, I was going to review, and so I did
Oh,
blurb reviews for like a whole day. And he was like, "If you do it, I'll print it." And I was like, "Okay." And so I did 125 words on some Blue World Press book.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe it was about Lady Gaga. I don't even remember now. I wish I remembered, but oh well.
These are some interesting comics.
Yeah.
The way they're constructed.
So that's the
Uh,
main thing that we kind of have to talk about here. The way that these are constructed is that every page is laid out exactly the same. It is 3 wide panels stacked on top of each other. However, they are telling their story in kind of 3 fragments that
three
are
timelines.
yeah,
We're
3 timelines that are
seeing
slowly seeming to get closer and closer together as things are revealed across each timeline. It
we
makes
are
it a
seeing the beginning of an event. We are seeing the aftermath of that event, and then we are seeing the consequences of that event.
correct.
And we have not yet seen the entire event. And each page, essentially the entire issue is laid out in kind of double page spreads,
Yeah,
where you read panel on top right, or panel on top left, panel on top right, middle left, middle right, and so forth. Um, that makes it tough to go page by page in this as we usually do. So, first off, something we can talk about because it's essentially consistent on every page is the art. And we can also talk about the writing and the lettering. We can talk about it constructively in that way. We'll also run down the events of the 3 timelines and what is happening, but it's a little different in terms of format.
yeah.
So,
What's also really interesting here, I mean, one, I think it's it's fun to play with the format, right? Any book that makes you like turn it or
well, it's also
interact with
something
it,
only comics can do is showing you all 3 of these things at once. You couldn't do this in a movie or on screen.
right? If you did it, it would be very jarring and it wouldn't.
Or, I
I mean,
mean,
you can kind of
there are
do it on a
movies that
screen with
jump
split
around in
screens.
timelines, Pulp Fiction being the like famous one. But you couldn't have exactly like you couldn't have necessarily 3 scenes stacked on top of each other on camera, all being different dialogue at once, and have that be
Yeah,
something you can actually follow. Like
yeah,
I'm sure there's probably experimental films like that, but like you can't follow those 3 narratives at once the way you can in a comic.
correct. And so In terms of the art, so Scott Morse is. I really like Scott Morse.
I think he's great on this.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a different. It's somewhere between like a Mike Mignola and a Jeff Lemire,
A little
and
bit of Michael Avon Emming in there.
yeah, oh, absolutely. So I really like the heavy blacks, but I like the kind of painterly colors that Jay Photos is bringing to it as well. I like the
Yeah.
textures across the different pages.
Each
Um,
timeline has its own art style,
yeah,
essentially, all by the same artist, which I think is actually kind of impressive. The origin of the event, the time before the event, this is almost structured like a modern HBO like kind of TV series or something in a way. There's almost a like White Lotus kind of quality to
sure.
it. Um the previous timeline showing the origin of the event is rendered in kind of a just sort of straightforward, blocky, kind of realistic style. The colors are very kind of open, muted, but like kind of a realistic rendering. And then the middle timeline, which shows the aftermath of this event, which we'll get into, is kind of rendered in these like very stark pink and red and orange watercolors that are like it's just very dreamlike in a
Yeah,
way.
which is great because then the final, like the consequence, is in very stark. It's in gray tones and
Yeah, I
black
said
and white.
stark on this. I meant stark isn't quite the striking is the word I was
Yeah,
looking for.
where there's just a severity to the final panel on the page, on
The
each
final
page.
panel that or the final timeline there looks like it's got a very Citizen Kane feel
Sure.
to the lighting, to the framing of some of the shots. There's a little bit of a Dutch angle to some of it. It is definitely going for that like classic like noir sort of tale. Now, here's how we should break this down. Okay. We'll go chunk by chunk, timeline by timeline, and kind of explain what happens in each one. We might stop along the way to make more notes about the art, whatever. But again, it's going to be tough to go like page by page on this in the
Yeah.
same way because we'd have to go through it 3 times. First off, the foundation of this big event is Sam and Twitch's big day off. Twitch is back with his wife. This is after his son got turned back from being a vampire, theoretically. That's not necessarily addressed here.
Yeah, it's not
The
important to this.
timing of that is
But
kind
this
of
but
interesting.
this is after his wife had left, brought the kids. He had kind of in the previous Sam and Twitch arc gotten together with another woman in her
Yes.
absence as a companion. That woman, and we'll have to get into this, does play into this arc on some
Yes.
level. But yeah, home life is back to normal for Twitch as much as it can be for anybody in the Spawn world. And he's been asked to basically do a honey-do list, right?
Yeah.
Hey, it's your day off. You got some shit to do because I
These
don't
are
have
your
time to do it.
chores.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his wife is like, I even organized them like in order of importance or whatever. And he's like, well, thank you. Uh
There's a sense that things are still a little bit strained and a little bit weird, but that they're both trying on some level.
Right. She's saying she doesn't know when she's going to be home from work, and Twitch gives her a kiss. He's looking at the list, and it says vacuum, take clothes to Goodwill, laundry, pick up Lauren, underlined. Lauren being one of their like 32 children, because these two fuck.
Yeah.
Um, as he's looking at the list, the phone rings. It's Sam asking, "Hey, what are we going to do on our day off?" Now, I do like this page here of Sam and Twitch. The way that they're rendered together. There's a lot of these parallel moments across the entire book in each like timeline. Um, Sam says, "Let's get something to eat." They go to the diner. They're kind of just hanging out. Uh, let's see. What is Sam saying here? This is tough. This is a
Yeah.
tough way to do this.
Well, yeah. Basically, like he's like, "Oh, Helen's got you playing Mr. Mom."
Yeah,
and
and he's
and
like, they're just kind of making chit chat about that.
so that's the thing is the story is actually fairly decompressed in the sense that like if you're following just the individual arc itself, it doesn't feel like all that much is happening at the beginning, and then it kind
Yeah.
of it compresses kind of over time as it sort of races to you understanding a little bit more of what's going on.
There is a tension in the format that is just lost in trying to tell it linearly on some
Yes.
level. It's kind of, it does work. At first, I was a little frustrated because I was like, how are we going to talk about this in a way that makes sense? Issues with the content on some level, also aside of it just being like, oh God, kind of relentlessly dark at some point. Uh, I thought it was pretty interesting. Again, it has the kind of format that you'd expect from like one of those prestige dramas called like The Little Things We Tell Our Children or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You were speaking about the parallels across the panels, and I think that, I mean, I think it's actually really, really clever. So, as Twitch is kind of getting everything together on this top timeline, in the middle, we're seeing this sort of like watercolor. It's clearly a funeral. Twitch is in, or sorry, Sam is in uniform, which he never is.
Right.
So, and we know from the bottom panels, we're like, Twitch is in jail. And
Right.
something bad has happened across these three timelines. Something Twitch will do
Yeah.
something that is going to lead
Yeah.
him to this bottom.
This is God. This is so hard. I feel like we started in a weird way. So
Yeah, it's okay. I think
if,
we're finding our
yeah.
way. And I
So yes,
and
we should kind of explain what these three timelines are.
yeah. So
We keep
top
alluding to this event.
yeah, and as it's going on, it's clear, and a lot of the exposition is based on this public defender that comes in to tell Twitch like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna get you off. I've gotten people free who've done way worse. They're way more guilty than you. Like, come on, it happened after only 6 days after you know
Your
your
kid
your kid
died.
got after your kid died, and so now we start trying to understand like, okay, somewhere
Yeah.
between pick up Lauren, a
We got to
funeral.
lay out what these three timelines are. We're just jumbling around
I
it
guess
right
I
now.
know, but there are. I mean, it's one of those things where we are limited
This is
by an
such a
audio format. Like, read these comics
this
if
is
you
going to
want
be
to.
such a frustrating episode for
Yeah.
people. Okay. Top
Timeline one.
timeline is Twitch and Sam hanging out while Twitch is supposed to be doing these chores for his wife. This culminate is supposed to culminate in him picking up his daughter from work. The middle timeline is, as Pierce said, Sam
Well,
and
probably
Twitch
picking up his
and
daughter from school.
sorry, yes,
Start over.
picking up. Yes, okay. The
Timeline
top.
one.
This sucks. This is bad radio.
That's fine.
Uh, okay. Timeline one is Twitch doing chores for his wife that are supposed to culminate in him picking up his daughter Lauren from school. Timeline two is a funeral. We don't know whose just yet, that Sam and Twitch and Twitch's whole family are attending. Timeline three is Twitch in jail, presumably for some heinous crime that took place 6 days after his child died. Now, as this story unfolds, what we learn is Lauren, rather than being picked up from school by Twitch, was shoved into the trunk of a car by a stranger, kind of what do you call Silence of the Lambs style.
Right, right, right.
She's this lady hoisting a rug into her trunk, and she says she's standing outside her school smoking. Looks like outside the gym. She's putting her cigarette out, and she says, "Someone inside says, you coming, Lauren?" And she says, "Yeah, in a minute. Hey, lady, need some help?" And the person whose face we can't see says, "Absolutely." And presumably, Twitch is doesn't seem like he's implied to be guilty of her fate, but of something that happened afterwards. We can guess maybe he killed her killer or
Took his own
something.
revenge, took things into his own
Or
hands.
something else could have happened. We don't know yet.
It's unclear. And I mean, that's kind of where the first issue ends because the funeral scenes are all silent. So,
Yes.
we're just kind of seeing them. In terms of the jail, the scenes in the jail, Twitch is like, who was this public defender? I didn't call anybody. And it's Sam that had called the public defender to come in. And Sam even says to one of the guards, like, hey, treat him right. Got it. He's one of our own. And we kind of end with just the door closes on Twitch there. And he's still.
Yeah. So here's where things get a little tough to start. First off, you know what? We're just going to do it like this. In the top timeline, we have Twitch
Are
kind
we
of
moving to issue two?
dejectedly. Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
So,
Oh,
issue
God.
two.
This is the
It's
hardest
fine. It's fine.
podcast. I have such bad ADHD that trying to jump between three timelines and explanation, I want to apologize to our listeners in advance.
It'll be fine. Issue two, same has the same creative team, and it has a summary. A rare day off for Detective Max Twitch Williams rapidly careens into a nightmare as his teenage daughter Lauren is violently kidnapped. This sets into motion a series of as of yet untold events involving a funeral for the Williams family and incarceration in a maximum security prison for Twitch. Now, if it makes it easier, I can just read the next two of those.
I mean, it's fine.
Okay.
One thing that should have been mentioned is there is an allusion in the first issue to police brutality. They talk about oh
Oh,
god,
Abner Luima, yeah.
yes, Abner Luima, who, god, what a fucked up story. It is an example of the worst kind of police brutality you can imagine. I'm not going to run it down here, but the comparison is kind of damning for Twitch in a way. Here we flash back to him sort of at this crime scene. He's looking at his daughter's jumper, like her school jumper with the Scorpions mascot on it. And they're saying there's a large amount of blood on it. In the middle timeline, Twitch and his wife are in the car on the way away from the funeral. She's trying to talk to him, and he's just kind of looking in the middle distance. The third timeline of this issue, I'm just going to summarize entirely right now as fast as possible.
Yep.
In the entire third portion of this issue, in the third timeline, Twitch is in prison. He goes into the prison showers, has an encounter with a group of criminals because he is a cop in jail. They attempt to assault him, and he fights them off brutally, basically kind of showing that he is still the ultra effective, like unfuckwithable dude who you used to see that just in his like eagle eye aim and like his steely nerves. And now he's a little more like he's almost a little more John McClane now.
Yeah. We don't need to get into that third timeline anymore
Yeah,
in
that's
this
all that really
summary.
happens in it.
In the first two timelines though are really interesting though, because as Twitch and Sam are learning about what happened, and Twitch is really lamenting like what like I promised Helen like I was going to pick her up. I promised I was going to do this, and now this is kind of he's really taking it to heart that it's his fault. We're also seeing how this is affecting Helen, and she's kind of just talk about staring off into the middle distance. We see her with the phone just kind of like blank, and we get an interesting scene then where at the funeral where Twitch is carrying one of his kids, and his daughter says, "Daddy, who's that pretty lady?" He says, "Who, baby?" And it pans over to this woman with a kind of a handkerchief,
Yeah, a kerchief
a
on her head.
kerchief, excuse
A
me.
kerchief like mama.
Um, and he says, "Oh, I don't know."
She says,
And
go with mommy.
he continues to stare, and he says, "KC." And now KC was this woman that he had been involved with in while he and his wife were separated. Plays pretty heavily into Brian Michael Bendis's arcs of Sam and Twitch, exploring that relationship. But presumably she is dead, so he should not be seeing her, and his daughter should certainly not be seeing her either.
Yeah. So meanwhile, back in the first timeline, the setup timeline, Twitch's wife and another one of his kids are waiting for him to come home with their daughter Lauren. And there is a knock at the door, and the other kid is like, "Is that Daddy and Lauren?" And the mom says, Twitch's wife says, "Yeah, Daddy's gonna bring her home real soon." Now, first off, Twitch has way less kids here. Uh,
Seemingly, yeah.
Second off, his wife is not a supermodel. She is very much a like normal looking woman. Now, we've often talked about how the side spin-offs of Spawn, while the events sometimes connect to Spawn or are brought up there, they kind of exist in a little bit of a liminal space where
Yeah.
they get to do some of their own thing.
It's the
Um,
seven universe version of
yeah, God.
everything, and this arc definitely plays into that. Marc
Sorry, there's not a
Andreyko is
knock at the
screenwriter,
door.
so
There is the phone ringing. The way the panels are laid out, it's fine. So the phone rings. The daughter says, "Is that Daddy and Lauren?" And Twitch's wife answers, Helen, and she's like, "Where is Lauren?" And don't play detective with me, Max. I want to know. And she just goes silent. Everything goes silent because the power in the house goes out. At the
and
same time,
mhm.
a box comes flying through the window. Twitch realizes that something happened in his house because the phone cut off, races home. Helen throws open the box, and we'll talk about what's inside. You want to go ahead and get into that?
Yeah,
You
I
want to
mean
go back to the, yeah.
it's an arm
It is an arm and a severed arm and a
and a
picture
picture
of
of
his
Lauren.
daughter tied up. So back in the middle timeline.
Back in the middle timeline, he's chasing after Casey, and he's just like, I don't understand how this could be the case. I really like the art in these panels. I think it's really, really
Oh,
gorgeous.
it's great.
Really gorgeous stuff, especially for the sort of dreamlike world that he's kind of in at this time. This kind of fuzzy, dreamlike state. It's really great, and he's kind of following her, and he's just like, "How is this possible?" And he looks, and he sees a coffin sticking out of the ground, and it's all, I mean, there's dirt everywhere, but it's cracked
It
open a
looks
little
like it
bit.
erupted out of the ground.
Yeah, and he cracks it open, and he sees inside, presumably Casey, with the Udaku killer having carved his name in her forehead, as if you had read that arc would have been familiar to you.
Right.
We didn't cover
Now,
it, but maybe we will.
there's an interesting visual parallel on the pages where Helen is throwing open the box to find the arm,
Yeah.
and Twitch is opening the casket to find Casey's body. And they're both just in such horror. I really do like the art in this. I really also think that if there's any arc that you should find for yourself that we're talking about, just to really see what it looks like, this is one that
Radio's doing it no justice. So
yes, us trying to explain it is, as you can tell, when we get to the second half of this arc, it'll go a little smoother because we'll know what we're doing a little more. But this is, we had a plan and it's experimental, and we're having to evolve it on the fly, I
yeah.
think.
Well, that will
Um,
bring us to
yes.
Case File Sam and Twitch #3, which has the same creative team. And again, I'll do the summary just so that we can level set a little bit. Reeling from the gruesome delivery of his daughter's arm, the apparent resurrection of his long ago murdered lover Casey, and his near assault in the prison showers, Twitch struggles to maintain control of his life and bring those responsible for the brutality and chaos inflicted on his family to justice. Can Sam help his partner, or will he only add fuel to the ever expanding inferno surrounding Twitch? Love these. I don't know if they're in the compendium,
The
but I
covers,
these like watercolor headshots are just, yeah, they're really lovely
yeah,
way
they're
to
very nice. They're very nice.
really incredible work.
Very Sienkiewicz in the like, and also kind of Dave McKean. Those are two vibes we've brought up a lot in some of the alternate Spawn titles, but
Yeah,
they really lend those kind of collagey, abstract in some way styles are part of the visual language of Spawn at this point, and they also lend themselves so well to this kind of story.
yeah. We also haven't talked about the lettering at all. The lettering in this book is the same way Warzakowski does the lettering in the normal Twitch book, where he doesn't use balloons. It's all kind of
Right.
blocked out words with a little scribble with a tail. Um, I kind of like it. It like
It works fine.
when it pops off the page, it works fine. When it's like too much and when it gets engulfed by the elements on the page or by the art
When the
style.
colors are a little cooler, it's a little harder to see.
Agreed. Agreed.
So yeah, okay, back in the first timeline, Twitch is trying to get information from the medical examiner about the arm. The medical examiner says, we can't verify yet that it's your daughter's. We need fingerprints. But what I can tell you is that it's a Caucasian female between the ages of 14 to 17, and that it was taken off with a hacksaw. The rigor mortis is consistent with the timeline of the kidnapping. Twitch gives them a set of her fingerprints that he had taken, which he's a cop. That makes sense. And there was also, if you were a kid in the 80s and 90s, probably even into the 2000s, you probably had a cop come to your school and do fingerprinting on you for missing child purposes in the era of
Milk
milk
cartons.
carton. Yep, milk carton kids. Do you know how milk carton started?
No.
One of the first, I think it was maybe the first case was hold on.
Well, it was
Give me
got
one.
milk. That's
Yes.
how they found milk.
Okay, yes. One of the first of and the most famous of the original milk carton kids, which if you weren't around in the kind of late 80s to early kind of 90s, uh in schools and like sometimes in uh convenience stores, cartons of milk would have pictures of missing children's faces on them, with information, about like who they were and where they were missing from. This is like kind of long before Amber Alerts. And one of the
Mm.
original milk carton kids was Johnny Gosh, who was I think, 12-year-old boy who was abducted from, I want to say, yes, in Iowa. And his case has never been solved. It is like got so many huge weird conspiracy stories around it at this point. There was a guy who was an aide to George W. Bush who claimed to be an adult Johnny Gosh. It's crazy. Anyway, another weird special interest unlocked. He says that he's got her fingerprints. He gives them over and they start to run them. Meanwhile, in the middle timeline, where Twitch thinks he's seen a ghost, he is talking to two investigators, presumably, where he's trying to explain, like, I saw this ghost. I saw I saw what I saw. I know what I saw. And they're kind of interrogating him, and his wife is kind of listening, and just like she has the most bitter look on her face as they're talking to him about this romantic relationship with another woman.
It's really interesting because I think a lot of times, I think we've experienced this over the years with superhero comics specifically, right? Where people are a lot less open, fans, I mean, are a lot less open to, and just readers in general, I suppose, are a lot less open to anything that looks quote unquote too cartoony or too expressionist or too
Mm-hmm.
whatever. They want like some realism. It's why I think Alex Ross works for so many people, is because they can understand it and really grasp it in a way that like
Well,
doesn't really require a lot of reading comprehension.
it feels like the definitive version of some kind of
Yeah.
superhero reality.
The cartooning here is so incredible.
So
Her face
good.
is so simple. Obviously, that's not what a human face looks like, but that's what it feels like it looks like, when you
Yes.
have
I
that
mean, you
feeling.
know the expression. You look at the
Yeah.
face and you see the expression. There's a lot of, it almost feels like a big influence on, say, maybe Tula Lote.
Yeah,
Like you can
absolutely.
really, especially the middle timeline here, which is now all rendered in kind of blue and green instead of that pinkish hue. It kind of shifted. The first issue it was very pink. Second issue it got more violet, and now it's very like blue green.
Yeah.
Um, sort of as it kind of mirrors the emotion of it, like the soft pink memory of like your precious child, and then the sort of heat of the aftermath where your emotions are really coming through, and then finally just this cascade of depression is what it feels like. I really do think the art in this is very striking. It's very good. The fact that it's one artist doing all three timelines is almost it's just very impressive.
Yeah.
I if nothing else, I definitely recommend reading these issues for that. At the same time, okay, back in that middle timeline, Twitch's wife is just like, okay, I have to go. And she like walks out on the interrogation. Not surprising. She's clearly having an intense emotional reaction, both to.
Yeah. And it's because what they're talking about is like him seeing this ghost and the guys he's talking to being like, listen, man, you've been through a lot lately. You had a whole thing with her. He's like, I'm not having a romantic delusion. Like, I know what I saw. You
I
have to
know what I
believe
saw.
me, and she's overhearing all of this. And Twitch believes this now because of the reality of the Spawn universe, right? He
The
believes,
Spawniverse,
yeah,
Spawn Unity, Spawn Universe.
he believes in ghosts at this point because he's seen some of the craziest shit ever.
And that's
And
not necessarily present in this story, but yeah, it's like he's got this perspective now of like, well, I've met fucking Spawn. He turned my son back from being a vampire.
yeah,
So Helen walks out. Twitch follows her, finds Sam, and sorry, Helen runs into Sam first. He kind of is like consoling her. Love the way Sam is drawn here, by the way. He
yeah,
just looks great. Twitch kind of explains that she's upset because she was listening to the entire conversation about, his dead ex-girlfriend and all that stuff. Um the cops that are investigating him are kind of like, "Well, look, yeah, the casket was that's weird, but like there's not much more we can investigate about you seeing her because she was in her grave as you also saw."
yeah. But he is saying that like it is a vandalism case. We can at least get the medical examiner to like check out the body and like maybe unseal some of the stuff from those files.
Right.
Like maybe we can. Like I think Sam's just trying to be kind here and being like, listen, I've seen some crazy stuff too. I know where you might be coming from. Here's what we can do. And I think that this actually, I'm really happy that we read Todd's kind of perspective on the characters right before reading this because, his thing really is that these guys are really good at their jobs. That
Yeah.
like people take them seriously in their world and like they take each other very seriously because they're very good at their jobs and they're best friends. You
Right.
know, um and so these two investigators they're the ones investigating just really the vandalism case are like, listen, we'll do all we can, but that's all we can do.
Right. Back in the old timeline, they are explaining to Twitch that even though the fingerprints were taken when she was young, they'll still be the same, even though they've changed in size. Sadly, we get the flashback. We're flashing back even more in this to it's kind of Twitch sort of picturing this in a way. His daughter being all tied up like she was in the photo, and this mysterious person approaching and saying, "Hello, Lauren. Don't be scared. It will only make this hurt more." And we assume that this is the moment where her arm was severed.
Yeah. But it's also, again, it's important to note that this is in Sam's mind's eye.
Yes, this is Sam, or this is Twitch rather.
Excuse me. Excuse
This
me.
is Twitch kind of like envisioning what must have happened to his daughter. We can guess it's probably pretty close based on what we know, but yes, this is Twitch kind of like imagining a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Um, Back in the middle timeline, throughout the later timeline, through it, we've kind of glazed over a little bit. What's happening in the
Yeah.
later timeline is Twitch's lawyer is trying to get him to give up the location of his family, kind of trying to talk to him about like strategies to win the case. And Twitch is just like, my family has nothing to do with this, and I'm not buying any of your fucking bullshit.
But also, he's not being super cooperative. And Timothy Champion, the public defender, is like, listen, if you're not going to help me and tell me things, then I will have to build a defense out of character witnesses. And the only way to do that is to know where your family is and to know where your friends are. So, help me help you here, bud. He's kind of being a dick, but at the same time, like, I don't know that he's not just doing his job. And Twitch is just not really in a state to hear it, you know?
Yeah. So yes, back in the third timeline, Twitch's lawyers trying to get him to like cooperate, tell him where the kids and wife are. Starting to feel suspicious to me that he's like,
Yeah,
where are your
kind of.
wife and kids? Maybe it's just him, trying to be like, cooperate with me at all. But Twitch is clearly trying to protect them. And his instinct to do so is probably correct given what happened to his daughter.
Yeah.
In the third timeline, it culminates with Sam being served as a witness in the case against Twitch.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the middle timeline, the aftermath of the funeral, of Lauren's funeral, Twitch is standing by a payphone that suddenly rings. He answers it, and someone says, "Hello, Twitch. It hurts to lose a child, doesn't it?" And that's kind of the big cliffhanger of the issue.
Yeah. And this is on the same page that in the first timeline, at the medical examiners, he's saying, Sam is asking, "Are you okay?" I actually really like this episode, this issue where Andreyko is able to have like the Sam and Twitch relationship floating between all three timelines. In the first timeline, we're seeing it as Sam helping his friend and being like, "Hey, we're gonna like go check this out and whatever, and are you okay?" Um, in the second timeline, we're seeing the aftermath of this funeral and him saying, "Listen, I know that you saw what you saw. I believe you. Let those guys do their job. Maybe we can just like goof off and do something like stupid." He says like watch Skinamax or whatever, and like he's not he's doing what he can to try and make light of a really bad situation. And then in this third timeline, we're seeing that like there's, I think you put it perfectly, right? The like sort of like a prologue, an aftermath, and then a consequence. And like the consequence being that because of Twitch's lack of cooperation, Sam is getting served with papers to defend his friend now.
Right.
And that's all kind of culminating on this very last page where in the timeline, Twitch says, "No, I'm not okay. And I don't think I'll ever be again." That's the same time he's speaking with the serial killer or the killer saying, "Hello, Twitch. It hurts to lose a child, doesn't it?" And then it's just Sam getting served these papers, just saying, "Motherfucker." And it really works. Like,
Oh yeah, no. It's
uh,
good storytelling. And we did glaze over a lot of the like particularly dark elements in a lot of ways.
yeah.
That whole middle issue of Sam in jail or Twitch in jail, not great. I get what it's going for. I understand it, but it's very like very Oz, very like
I was just going to
90s,
say,
early 2000s, like prison is hell.
well,
And it
listen, we've
is,
talked about this
but
before. Comics have a history of finding a thing that the writer is kind of interested in it and doing a riff on it or incorporating it in some way. I mean, that's how fiction's always been.
like prison,
Yeah,
yes.
Um,
Want to be clear, Pierce is talking about an interest in prison and prison life, not Marc and Draco.
oh, what? No, yes, no, no, no. I meant like the. Okay, never mind.
I
Everybody knew
know
what
what
I
you
meant.
meant. I don't. I couldn't let it hang. You can delete what I said.
I will get into the back matter now.
Let's get this over
We
with.
already read
Yes.
the back matter in issue 1. So in issue 2, it says it's a conversation. So it goes. "You'll never guess who just called me," I said to Bendis. "For those who live under rocks, Brian Bendis is, in no particular order, the busiest and most popular writer in comics, my co-writer on Torso, the former chronicler of Sam and Twitch's adventures, and my best friend." "Okay, who?" "Todd McFarlane." "Yeah, and?" You'll never guess what he offered me. Okay, what? Guess. How about no? Tell me. Fine. Case files, Sam and Twitch. Wild, huh? Do it. Huh? Do it. It's a great gig. And so began a long, strange ride that brought you the book you were holding right now. After the initial shock of being offered S&T, and after talking to Brian about it, ideas for stories just began popping into my head. Ideas I actually liked. How weird was that? So I began jotting down ideas for story arcs. After about a week of this, I realized I had 10 stories loosely plotted at 6 issues an arc. I had theoretically at least 60 issues in mind. 10 minutes later, I called Todd back. I'll do it. Who is this? Oh, hi, Todd. It's Marc Andreyko. And if the offer still stands, I'd love to do case files. Cool. Now, about the art, well, I have a few ideas. And that, dear readers, is another story for another column and another issue. But a few thanks must be given. Thanks to Todd for giving me this opportunity. Thanks to Brian Bendis for pushing me to take the gig and giving it his blessing and support. Thanks to Tyler Jeffers for his enthusiasm and dedication. And an extra special thanks to Scott Morse for making my words come to life with such beauty and skill that it actually appears I know what I'm doing. Next issue, the rare beast in comics, a letter column. So just a fun.
Yeah, that's
I
kind of the end of letter columns for a little while. They got unfashionable for a few years. They
I'm
come and go.
yeah. I think it's about if they really have the room.
And
Oftentimes
also sometimes they don't get a lot of writers letters that they like
want to
really
print.
want to print. Yeah.
Yeah. So issue 3 has some real letters. Hey Mark, I said in my letter about issue 1 I had the feeling there would be a few surprises along the way. Never would I have imagined this. The first part ends with a big bang, leaving you wanting to read the next issue. The second part was also getting more exciting than it already was. Casey back among the living, and the last page, Udaku. I've been waiting since the end of that first story arc in the regular series to see a continuation of it. The third part is a bit more lighthearted. Is in the prison shower, a brilliant scene. Jesus, that's not a lighthearted.
Light-hearted.
Jesus, I can't wait till issue 3. Keep up the good work. Martin Bijnens, Zoetendaal, Belgium.
Oh, a Belgian.
It says, Martin, thanks for trying out Case Files. Yeah, in case you can't tell, I'm having a blast on this title. The Udaku stuff was the perfect story arc to inaugurate this new title and offer a tip of the hat to Brian, who launched S&T to greatness years ago. I'm glad you liked the prison shower scene. It was important to me that we see Twitch as more than just the Laurel to Sam's Hardy. Twitch can take care of himself, and that's a side of him we haven't really seen. I also want to take a moment to thank all the readers who have picked us up. The support from fans and critics alike has been so gratifying for both myself and Scott. We didn't know if the three-tiered storytelling would work or not. So far, it seems to be going beautifully. And don't worry, normal storytelling returns in Arc 2 with art by the amazing Paul Lee. But that doesn't mean there won't be surprises galore, especially for Sam, who gets his turn in the spotlight this time around. Anyway, thanks again for taking the chance on Case Files, and write us letters. Love us, hate us, berate us. I want letters. So, next issue, Sam confronts the ever withdrawing Twitch as Twitch's family continues to dissolve. The identity of the mastermind behind the torment is revealed.
Well,
Dum,
good.
dum, dum, dum. I think we can get into final thoughts here.
Okay, great. Liked the arc. Had a hard time talking about it.
Not even a full arc yet. We're only
Or
halfway
liked the
through.
issues.
Yeah.
Had a hard time talking about it in terms of trying to organize. Oh my
I
gosh.
think the
Trying
first
to
issue
organize the three
I think
timelines.
the first issue was the toughest just because they are so disparate and you don't when I was reading the first issue the first time I was like, did I miss something? What the
Yes.
fuck is happening? And then kind of as it went through, I was like,
I
oh,
figured it out a couple pages in, like,
yeah,
oh, okay, I get it. I'm gonna find out.
yeah. And I think that's, like you said, a really interesting way for comics to do something that other mediums can't really do in the same way. You know, I think that's really interesting. I'm excited to read the last 3 of these. It does make me want to get back to Spawn. Um,
But it is an interesting story. I mean, I don't want to sell it short.
no,
It was frustrating for me to really talk about only because of the structure is a little, well, it's obviously atypical.
yeah,
And this podcast where we usually go through the issues linearly, it's just a different kind of thing. I think next episode will, like I said, we'll settle into it a little bit more.
yeah. And I think
But
for folks who have read the issues or at least have listened to this episode, next episode will be a little bit more clear because the 3
yeah,
threads I think are a little bit more clear as they start to converge over time and get like a little bit closer in time to each other. So,
yes,
but also I really like the art. I
art's great. Art is so good.
Shout out to Scott Morse. Such it's so cool that Spawn continues to be a place that really showcases artists. Uh,
Yes.
and I think that
I
that
mean,
fucking rules.
yeah, Todd clearly loves comic art,
Yeah,
and he's not just into one style. I think that's always been a strength with the Spawn line, even back when it was just a few titles as it was expanding, is he's never really been afraid to let people put their own stamp on it.
agreed. Agreed. Cool. Well, before we go, got any recommendations for our listeners this week, George?
I am excited to say I do have one. It is my new band's first song. It is finally out. It's on Bandcamp. My new band is called La Cigarette. You can find us at lasigarette.bandcamp.com, spelled exactly as it sounds. Or you can just go to coolbutrude.com and find us there. And I hope you do. And I hope you like it. It is something that's been in the works for almost a year. And I'm so excited to finally have it out. I've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, that's my recommendation.
Hell yeah. My recommendation is what have I been up to lately? Oh, we didn't even talk about this. I will recommend the films of Rob Reiner because
Oh my God. Honestly, I was so
so sad.
uh it is awful. Rob Reiner directed, I mean, several incredible, so many fantastic movies. The Princess Bride is, I think, the one that people will hold up as like the pinnacle in a lot of ways. But he also directed This Is Spinal Tap, which is one of my two favorite movies of all time. Like, that is my favorite movie of all time that's actually a good film. And then my favorite movie of all time that's not is Hackers. But This Is Spinal Tap, I mean, it's just shaped so much of my humor and in some ways my personality. I've watched it 3 times in 2024 times in 2025. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. Every time I watch it, I laugh so hard. So R.I.P. Marty DeBurgi.
Yeah, he listen, Rob Reiner just kind of has an insane like first what, 8 movies out the gate, 7 movies out the gate.
Yeah,
His
there's
first
like
7
one in there that wasn't great,
like The Sure
but like
Thing,
everything else, yeah.
like sure, but like I think it was still a hit though. But like this is Spinal Tap 84, Stand By Me 86, Princess Bride 87, When Harry Met Sally 89, Misery 90, Few Good Men 92.
God, Misery too. I forgot he did Misery.
Yeah. So Rob
I just
Reiner, RIP to a great, RIP to his wife as well.
Yeah,
And
truly a tragic, tragic, tragic story.
yeah, yeah. It is crazy also that he gets to bookend his career with Spinal Tap and Spinal Tap 2. It's kind of
Isn't that wild?
weirdly poetic, I guess. But
Yeah, and also, R.I.P. to the president. That's just wishful thinking.
hey, by the time this comes out, it might not be. You never know. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to the show. If you like it, rate, review, subscribe, do all that stuff. It really helps. And George, before we go, for Todd Soul of the world,
He gave his only begotten spawn.
see you later, Hellspawn. Spawnography is recorded in Athens, Georgia, and Queens, New York. It's produced by me, Pierce Lyden. Our theme music and logo were composed by George Marston. Episodes come out every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe. You can find us on social media at Spawnography or at SpawnographyPod. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at spawnographypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, see you later, Hellspawn.